And one thing that took up a lot of time was this game that she would force me to play called Choosey.
The Choosey game is where, if you have a lot of one item, you gather it up and you have to choose your favorite. But how you do so is you pick two and then you have to choose your favorite out of the two. And then you save the favorite and throw away the least favorite. And then you continue going and going and going. And then all the ones you chose the first round go into the second round. And it's continuous.
And Croc Charms, she would make me play Choosey between Croc Charms. And she didn't even own a pair of Crocs.
Every time I play this game with someone, I always win.
I think we all know that Amberlynn has had some really bizarre behaviors and some really odd quirks about her.
Because I'm actually allergic to egg yolk. I just got some eggs because I like to have eggs in the morning. The longer I cook the egg, the less likely I will feel sick. I bought a ton of hard-boiled eggs that are already cooked. No, I've never been allergic to eggs.
And of course, she's also had some more serious allegations come against her, but we're not going to be getting into all of that today. After Beck started coming forward and answering some questions on her YouTube channel, which will be linked below, there are a few things that I just cannot wrap my head around. And I know that the Choosey game has already been talked about, so for some of you, this won't be new information. And I know I'm very slow, guys. I'm sorry, I'm trying here. But with this girl, the pace that the teen moves is I just cannot keep up. But what I haven't seen enough people talk about is what this Choosey game actually means. So today we'll be talking about this new revelation of the Choosey game, as well as getting into bizarre lint-picking behavior, or I guess ritual would be the better way of describing that. And we're going to take a closer look at how Amberlynn systematically breaks down her partners using manipulation, control, and weaponizing her victim mentality. Oh, and she's also psychotic. And her games are psychotic. That's where the title comes from. Anyway, let's first go over what this Choosey game actually is for those of you who aren't as hopelessly addicted to gore world drama as the rest of us, and maybe aren't as up to date. Now, according to Beck, in answering a question about what Amber does with all of her free time, Beck brought up a game that Amber would want to play with them. Or I'm sorry, a game that Amber would force Beck to play with them. And well, let's just hear it straight from Beck.
Okay, so the first question is from someone named Raven Elise, and I actually wonder this as well. Amberlynn is immobile, or close to immobile, during the time that you spent with her during your season. Raven and I would like to know, what does Amberlynn do with all of her time?
This is something that you guys probably already know about her, but it depends on what she's into in the moment. It could be reading and being on her computer for hours upon hours at a time. She would have so many tabs open, and it would just be YouTube, shopping. She would have her personal journal that she would write in open. I don't know. Sometimes I didn't even know because I didn't even really see a lot of her computer or her phone. She was also on her phone, but I was aware of the many different tabs that she was on, because another thing with Amber was no matter what she was doing or what we were doing, she could only handle it for so long, and then she would have to switch to something else. So if we were watching a movie or a TV show or something, we could only watch so much of it, and then she would pause it, and we'd have to do something else for a little while before we come back to it. She also was really into puzzles and Legos and journaling, and one thing that took up a lot of time was this game that she would force me to play called Choosey, where she would take a bunch of thousands of stickers, she bought bulk stickers, and had me pick between them all the way down until I picked one single sticker to be the best sticker of all. And she made me do this with buttons and earrings, calendar pages. She would buy a bunch of small calendars and tear the pages out and then have me pick between the pictures down to which one I liked the most. And Croc Charms. She would make me play Choosey between Croc Charms. And she didn't even own a pair of Crocs. She just had thousands of Croc Charms for no reason.
Okay, first off, isn't it just wild that when asked about what Amber does in her free time, this was one of the first things that came to Beck's mind? Well, this and her chronic online shopping, maybe shopping for more stickers to add to her hoard. And the fucking Croc Charms, oh my god. When she didn't even own Crocs, the absolute buffoonery in that. I cannot even imagine what would compel somebody to waste their money like that. And just as a side note, I love the way that Beck says she doesn't even own Crocs. Crocs.
She didn't even own a pair of Crocs.
Anyway, according to Beck, Amber would gather up one of her many collections of things, whether that be stickers or earrings or charms or whatever it was, and make Beck systematically sort through these things to find the bestest thing of all the things. To prove that, I don't know, Amber has the bestest stuff. And keep in mind here, this was done in like an elimination tournament type of game. A game that, according to Beck, could take hours or even days to finish.
And sometimes, because there was so many, like with stickers and earrings, it would take hours and sometimes even days to completely get down to just one.
As we've seen over the years, Amber has a habit of amassing collections of a great many number of things, like her crystal collection.
I went through a phase where I really liked crystals.
Or her absolute mountain of journals.
But it's quite embarrassing. Here, watch, show them, babe. Show the vlog. No, the actual... You were trying to show me the video! Okay, I'm just gonna do the same exact thing that I did for the video. Oh my god.
This isn't to be impressive. This is to show you how ridiculous. Just look. How psychotic. All these poor trees. No, I'm kidding.
I still feel like I need more, though.
No, you don't.
No?
No.
Or the sticker collection that Beck mentioned.
Here are all my stickers in the container that I bought. These are some of my favorites. I got these off of Amazon.
Just masses and masses of stickers that she would never end up using. And her charm collection, and this clip was found through Salty Crab. She dug up this post showing that Amber was actually trying to sell off her massive hoard of charms, as well as her collection of stickers, which she admitted to having spent an embarrassing amount of money on. Salty Crab also resurfaced this classic moment, showing Amber's extensive earring collection.
I collect earrings. I don't wear like any of them. I have thousands of earrings, and I think I've worn maybe 5% of them, which I'm showing you them right here. So if you guys do want to buy my earrings, what I'm doing is I am selling a pair or how many pairs you want, but they're going to be mystery pairs. So you'll never know what you're going to get. My Depop store name is Lovely Earrings. I'm super excited. I appreciate you guys so much, and I just feel like I need to do something bigger and better. I know it sounds really weird, but earrings are a passion of mine, but I collect earrings, and I don't even collect them to wear them. You know, I just collect them to have them.
So looking at those hundreds of thousands of earrings and knowing that at one point Amber would make Beck sort through every single one to not just find the best, but rank each individual pair against the other, it makes a bit more sense why this game would take hours or days to finish. Oh, and by the way, because I don't want to lose sight on how nasty of a person Amber can be, Amber has also attempted to justify her earring collection by throwing Beck under the bus.
You said, how many shirts do you think Becky bought while with you for the whole 4 years? Tell me why I was thinking that same question like 2 days ago. Tell me why. Oh my god, tell me why. I saw this like meme moment. Let's start over. I saw this meme moment on Facebook where it said, why can't we get like taxes back for all the money we spent on our exes? And when I tell you, I LOL'd because it's so true. Like, I was sitting there and I was just like, you know how much money I would have if I got like that money back? Like, it's just like a funny meme. Okay, calm down. But I was thinking about her shirts too, which is so funny. Because she collects shirts. I love that for her. This isn't a bad thing. Like, please don't take this. It's just funny. Because then I started thinking about like my earring collection, and I was like, we both had our moments. Like, she would buy like tons of t-shirts, I'd buy tons of earrings.
I don't know, something about the way that Amber is acting and implying that Beck owes her this money. It's just gross. She's a gross and nasty mean person, okay? But anyway, bringing it back to this Choosey game, because here's where we get into a bit of my speculation. Obviously, I wasn't there, so I can really only comment on a situation like this. And to me, this game would have reinforced Beck's subservient role to Amber in this relationship. And in my opinion, this game would have induced a form of decision fatigue in Beck. When you're constantly forced to make endless, meaningless choices, like picking between nearly identical pairs of earrings or stickers or whatever else Amber fancied at the time, that is gonna wear you down. This form of decision fatigue can lead to your brain becoming exhausted from making so many choices, making you more passive and less likely to push back.
When like the binge monster comes, like you do everything in your power to help me, you know? I know.
Tried.
I know it gets scary. It's hard.
Mean.
But I'm not like mean abusive.
If Amber's partners spent hours on these pointless games, they likely learned that resisting wasn't worth the effort. Over time, they might have started going along with Amber's wants and demands just to keep the peace and avoid arguments or a pouty Lynn. And if you're too mentally drained to push back on something as small as choosing your favorite sticker, imagine how hard it is to stand up for the bigger things, like leaving the relationship altogether. Eventually, they would become numb to these bigger choices altogether. And this sort of decision fatigue morphs into a form of control and manipulation. If Beck or Amber's other partners were being constantly forced into small, frustrating tasks that served no purpose, they gradually might have stopped questioning them. Over time, they might have started to feel powerless to push back against Amber's other demands, since resistance never changed anything anyways. So instead, they would just go with the flow to appease the ham beast. And this isn't even the first time Amber's done something like this with one of her partners. We have video evidence of Amber playing and explaining the Choosey game with her past partner, Crystal. Amber was filming it like it was some sort of cutesy couples game.
A while ago, I made up this game called like the Choosey game. The Choosey game is where, you know, if you have a lot of one item, you like gather it up and you have to choose your favorite. But how you do so is you pick two and then you have to choose your favorite out of the two, and then you save the favorite and throw away the least favorite, and then you continue going and going and going until they're all gone, and then all the ones you chose the first round go into the second round, and it's like continuous, and then at the end you have like a favorite of whatever. So we're about to do it with my stud earrings. Huh? So here are my stud earrings, and we're about to go through each and every single one. And I'll kind of show you how in like a little clip, and she's gonna choose her overall favorite currently. Okay, so without really being biased, I'm gonna choose two earrings. And now she has to look at these two and decide which one she likes more. So, Crystal, do that real quick. So she's choosing which one she likes more. I guess the ones you like more you can put right here. And then the ones that are no's, she's gonna put in a different pile. Put it right here for now. And see, so that's her keep pile. So what this means is all the ones that she likes will go there. All the ones that she doesn't like versus, you know, the two will go there. And then this pile, after all these are gone, this pile, we're going to do it again. And then we're going to do this process over and over again. And then we're going to do this process over and over again. And we'll end up with her favorite out of all of these. And I will show you guys which one that is.
We also have other instances of Beck describing a similar game that they would play to pick out their movie, as Salty Crab also pointed out in her video.
Do you guys do movie nights, and what are your favorite movies? I'll let you go first since you're the movie queen.
Yes, we do movie nights. Me and Amberlynn have this game that we actually play. Like, I actually take about 10 of my movies and she goes through them and picks one out. And then she'll pick 10 of her movies and then I'll go through and pick one out. And then we'll watch them both and then we'll do it again. I don't know. It's just something fun we like to do.
So, yeah, I believe that that's how Amberlynn kind of warmed back up to the Choosey game. It started out by Beck kind of being involved, like, okay, you pick from my pile and I'll pick from your pile. And then over time, it evolved into Beck being the only one having to pick. And I feel like it went from something fun that Beck wanted to do and turned into a chore for them.
And I really agree with Salty Crab here. This seems like a really plausible way that Amber could have warmed Beck up to the idea of playing something like this, starting as something that Beck wanted to do and quickly spiraling. And while we've seen the game with at least Crystal and Beck, I believe that other partners may have also been subjected to the same torture. I think it may be possible that even Jade Wifey Feline had gotten tied up in some of Amber's psychotic games.
You're asking me?
Yeah.
My favorite thing about you?
Yes.
How you turn everything into a game.
Okay. How I turned everything into a game. I should have been a banana.
Watching this back now, I almost feel like this is Jade giving Amber a bit of shade. And I could be totally wrong on this. I mean, we don't really know what all the games were that Amber was having Jade play, because we didn't really get to see much of Jade before Amber moved into her single Lynn era. And during this single Lynn era, we've seen that Amber even plays the Choosey game by herself. And she has done this multiple times.
So I have done this before with you guys, but this is how I usually choose my journal when I'm just doing it by myself. So I like to vlog it too because it's fun. So it's kind of like process of elimination here. So I'm going to get rid of the one that I don't want to use next, and then I'm going to keep the one that I do want to use, and the process will go on until I have one left.
So this tells us that this game isn't just about entertaining or occupying her partner. Amber also wanted to play Choosey when she was all alone. So even though I do believe this to be like a psychotic manipulation game, considering that Amber thinks this is a totally normal and okay thing to play with a partner, evident by the fact that she filmed and happily explained the game to her audience back in the Crystal era, it's unlikely that Amber sees this as problematic. And so maybe this isn't intentionally manipulative. Maybe Amber just doesn't realize what she's doing. And I don't mean this to justify the Choosey game. No. What I'm saying is, perhaps rather than Amber being some sort of calculated master manipulator, perhaps it's more likely that this childish and manipulative behavior comes more naturally to Amber. And a lot of people have brought up that this Choosey game sounds like something that a toddler would have made up. And honestly, that's kind of true. So this might just be another example of Amber's arrested development, where she clings to behaviors and interests that are more common in young children.
I'm a kid at heart, what can I say? You guys know I am dumb at geography, so my girlfriend got these color of the USA states. You think I'm joking? Well, I'm not. She even got the colored pencils.
And before you get all butthurt in the comments, yes, coloring can be a totally okay and therapeutic thing to do. If it helps you relax and unwind, more power to you. But for Amber, this is her whole life. If she's not being entertained by something food related, then she's likely doing something that was designed to entertain a child. And so while this Choosey game may be a form of manipulation, it's also likely rooted in Amber's inability to mentally age past about 14. Additionally, there's a possibility then rather than being about control, this game is more about validation. We know that Amber hoards things, lots of things, and we've seen it time and time again. And what's the best way to make sure that your partner acknowledges, praises, and adores your stuff? Force them to go through it, one by one, picking favorites and reacting to every single thing. It's not just about making them choose. It's about making them look at everything, appreciate it, and reinforce that yes, Amber has great taste and her collections are totally worth hoarding. So is Choosey just a weird little game? Or is it a form of manipulation and validation? And honestly, it can be all of these things. Whether Amber's aware that she's doing it or not, the end result is the same. Her partners are forced into these cycles of pointless decision making, exhausting themselves and reinforcing Amber's need for attention and control. And this is just one of the ways that Amber does it. Because next, we're gonna look at something even weirder, the lint-picking ritual. But before we move on to this next chapter, please let me know down in the comments below, what are your thoughts on this whole Choosey game? Because honestly, the fact that we're even talking about this is just wild. Alright, so if you thought Choosey was weird, well, do I have a treat for you? And well, let's just hear it right from the source. Beck.
And another thing that would take up a lot of time is she would set a timer for 45 minutes to an hour usually. And she would have me sit behind her and pretend to pick lint off of her back because she liked the way it felt and sounded because of ASMR. And she would have me do this for so long that my arms and stuff would hurt. And whenever I would want to stop, she would sigh and just be like, well, I'm going to pause the timer. So she would pause the timer for my little break, and then I'd have to immediately go back to it, and she would unpause the timer again. Sometimes I would catch her not unpausing the timer because she would want me to do it for longer.
This is seriously one of those, like, you can't make this shit up sort of moments. And some may argue, like, oh, how can we believe everything that Beck says? Bitch, who would invent this? Who would wake up one day and think, gee, you know what would be a really fun lie? I'll say I was forced to sit behind my ex pretending to pick lint off their back for 40 plus minutes. It's just too specific, too bizarre, and too on brand for Amber. So personally, I believe Beck. So now that we've taken a moment to process how deranged this is, can we please take a moment to just talk about why this whole situation type deal even happened? At first glance, it might just seem like another one of Amber's weird little quirks, like her hoarding or her sticker obsession. But when you look at the way she enforced this task, using a timer and essentially punishing Beck for needing to take breaks and pretending to forget to resume this timer, this starts to feel a whole lot nastier. This wasn't about lint. This wasn't even about ASMR. This, again, in my opinion, was more about manipulation and control. Like we saw with the Choosey game, by forcing Beck to perform a tedious, time-consuming, and pointless task, Amber wasn't just indulging in some weird sensory fixation. She was reinforcing Beck's role as Amber's servant. The task was meaningless. The goal wasn't to remove lint. It was for Beck to perform an arbitrary, repetitive action just to please Amber. And this kind of behavior has some disturbing psychological parallels. Forcing someone to perform pointless, repetitive tasks isn't just annoying. It's a well-documented manipulation tactic. In coercive control dynamics, abusers will often create arbitrary, demeaning chores as a way to enforce their dominance. It's a way of mentally breaking down their victim, making them feel powerless, dependent, and trapped. And on top of all of this, the timers that Amber would put on Beck adds a whole nother layer of control. Because we've heard from Beck before that Amber would put timers on them, restricting Beck's time with their friends and family.
What was the typical amount of time Amber set for visiting friends and family? That's one of the... I've never heard of anybody else doing that. Maybe other controlling partners have done that too. I've never ever heard of it. I've never come across that before in my life. Jesus. It's such a bizarre behaviour, and I'm trying to even imagine what Amber would view as an acceptable time. There you go, yeah.
So the timer would be for when I would hang out with my best friends. We would go down to the basement and play games and stuff, and Amber would choose to stay up in our room, and she would set timers for when I would have to leave my friends and come be with her again. And then whenever it came to like seeing my family or leaving and going somewhere without her, she would give me a time, like a specific time that I needed to be back. And if I wasn't back by that time, then there would be an argument. So on average, when I would be downstairs with my friends, the timer would be about set for 30 minutes. And when it came to seeing my family or leaving in general, she would just ask me when did I plan on being back. And whenever I would give her a time, she would give me a time sooner than that for me to be back.
Of course, later on, Amber will claim that she did this because of her BPD. However, in reality, these timers gave Amber the satisfaction of controlling what Beck did, dictating how Beck spent their time, isolating them and reinforcing that their freedom was limited and conditional. And now I know it seems crazy to think that anybody could be trapped in such a situation, but I think it's important to realize that this was likely a gradual transition, a gradual wearing down of Beck's resistance, while also taking advantage of her caring nature and her already low self-esteem. Also, Beck went through a lot nearing the end of their relationship, losing one of her parents and being put on medication that basically turned her into a zombie. So while fine, you may not be able to be subjected to such circumstances, but you have to remember that there's people out there who are in more vulnerable situations and lend better to becoming a target of these manipulators and abusers. Now, again, I'm not trying to say here that Amber is some sort of master manipulator and intentionally using psychological warfare. No, again, this appears to be more of a natural habit that Amber is very comfortable with. But whether intentional or not, the effect is the same. Beck was subjected to a ritual that served no purpose other than reinforcing Amber's dominance. So if it wasn't about lint, what was this about? Well, there are a few possible explanations. And first, let's get into Amber's claim that this was for her ASMR.
Because she liked the way it felt and sounded because of ASMR. And
I have ASMR.
Well, ASMR aside, this could be some sort of sensory fixation, something that Amber found relaxing. Like some people enjoy repetitive, gentle touch. And there's also a small chance that this need for lint picking was an OCD-like compulsion. Not saying that she necessarily has OCD, but we do know that Amber claimed to have OCD back when she was with Crystal.
I feel like everybody might have a tad bit of OCD, but I feel like some people are actually diagnosed with it. Like my girlfriend, she was diagnosed with OCD disorder, and so was I. But in certain cases, hers is worse, and in certain cases, mine is a little worse. But
So I don't know, maybe this lint picking was something that Amber picked up back from the Crystal era. But of course, we have to remember that Amber is a lying liar who lies.
Because when I was diagnosed with OCD, like, they sat there and they were like explaining everything to me, and I had to tell them like all the weird things that I did. And no, never been diagnosed with OCD because I've never been tested. Since then, you know, I've been diagnosed with OCD. I've been diagnosed with PTSD, bipolar.
So we really can't believe her whole OCD thing, but that doesn't mean she didn't pick it up from maybe Crystal's tendencies. But regardless of whether Amber enjoyed this lint picking activity for OCD or ASMR or whatever else, why did she need it done for 40 plus minutes on a timer? Why force Beck to keep going? Did Amber just want what she wanted no matter the inconvenience or even pain that it caused to others?
she would have me do this for so long that my arms and stuff would hurt.
Or was there something more? We know that Amber thrives on attention, validation, and being treated as though she's special. So what better way to reinforce that than to have somebody literally tend to her like royalty? In some sort of twisted way, Amber could have been doing this to make Beck adore her and stroke her ego. Amber gets what she wants while training Beck's obedience. So again, like with the Choosey game, this pointless repetitive task appears to be a combination of a manipulation tactic to gain control over her partner, as well as a way to stroke her ego and feed into her narcissistic tendencies. Now, on the topic of manipulation, because I do believe that these two instances that we just talked about are forms of this like covert manipulation. I also wanted to give some more manipulation tactics that we've seen Amber use in the past and will probably continue to see her use in the future. Starting with the technique known as mirroring. And this has been one of the most noticeable patterns in Amber's relationships. She essentially absorbs her partner's personality, taking on their interests and hobbies, and sometimes even their medical conditions, like we saw with Crystal and the OCD, while also wearing glasses just like Crystal. Amber also has a habit of picking up catchphrases from her partners, mimicking their accent, tone, and their speech pattern.
Did you notice ALR adopting your personality and mannerisms when you became friends? Yes. Half of her isms right now are literally mine. Except I don't know where she got this like hectic word from, so don't come for me for that, because I didn't do that. But like the randomly busting out in a country accent thing that she's been doing, that is me.
Amber has no real identity of her own. Instead of being her own person, she just morphs to whoever she's around or whoever she's dating. This makes it easier for her to latch onto new partners because she can be whatever they want her to be, at least in the beginning. And as I mentioned, mirroring is a known manipulation tactic. Toxic people use it as a way to create a false sense of connection, making their partners feel like they've met their soulmate because they're just so similar. But in reality, they're just reflecting the other person back at them. Another classic Amber move is showering her partners with gifts. As a manipulation tactic, this is known as love bombing.
And then I was like, hey, Destiny, you want to open one of your gifts? Just, I don't know, just out of the freaking hell of it. She opened one, then another, and then another, and then this happened. Are you guys ready for this? Ready? Like, this happened.
Love bombing isn't just about generosity. Again, it's about control. Starting with the love bombing phase, Amber will shower her partner with gifts and attention, making them feel special and indebted to her. Next comes the control phase. Once her partner is used to the gifts, Amber expects loyalty in return. And finally, the guilt-tripping phase. If her partner ever decides to leave, she reminds them of all she's done for them. And this cycle keeps her partners emotionally trapped, making it harder for them to walk away. And finally, when things do fall apart, Amber has one more trick up her sleeve, flipping the script to make herself look like the victim. Amber has shown this straight to her audience, but I expect that she's shown this to her partners too when the cameras are off. For example, with Beck after their breakup and Amber saying that it takes two to tango.
It takes two to tango in most relationships, but like, I am fully aware and taking accountability of like, it was probably hard being in a relationship with me in the past because I had a lot of baggage, a lot of heaviness, and undiagnosed BPD. It's scary, it's overwhelming.
This is implying that Beck was equally responsible for the relationship's downfall. This is not owning up to wrongdoing. This is putting blame on the other person instead. Time and time again, we'll see Amber bring up her bad mentals as an excuse for poor behavior. It's not just excusing the bad behavior, it's also painting herself as the victim. You should feel sorry for her because she was in a bad headspace and she couldn't control the way that she reacted. Bullshit. And you guys, so this was supposed to go out on Monday. I'm a little late. But then I saw that Amber uploaded a new video and it was an apology to Beck. So I just had to include it because again, it shows this point of Amber always playing the victim when there's ever any accusations against her. Now, as a bit of a joke, I put this up on my community tab asking you guys how you thought Amber was going to respond to all these new things that Beck was bringing up. Most of you thought that she'd call Beck a liar. But some of you thought that she might try to defend Choosey as a fun game, or that she'd try to ignore and say nothing. Well, you all get a prize because you are all kind of correct. So let's see how she pulled that one off. And now we're not going to watch the whole thing. I'm only going to include clips of my favorite parts, starting with this.
So in their new video, they were reacting to a compilation video of me being rude to them for 10 minutes straight. And in the reaction, Beck stated multiple times that it's obvious that they didn't want to be on camera. And they said, oh, look at me zoning out while she's talking. And it's like both of those things like genuinely hurt. And it made me realize like I didn't even notice these things.
So in response to Beck saying that it was clear that they didn't want to be filmed, Amber's first thought was how it hurt her to hear them say that. Not poor Beck, it's always got to be poor Amber first. And to not even notice that your partner is zoning out and not wanting to be there, who's surprised that Amber didn't notice that?
Just like how when I was in a relationship with them, I didn't notice how mean or rude I could come off until looking back, and I just feel super remorseful.
How mean and rude she could come off as, not how mean and rude she was. Again, this is not really taking accountability. This is, I'm sorry you feel that way.
Realizing that we both viewed this relationship so differently actually makes it easier for me to be accountable and to apologize, because if that's the way that they truly viewed it, like, I deeply apologize for that. And there's nothing I can do to change their opinions and their thoughts and their experience, because that's what they lived.
How more on the nose can you get? I'm sorry that's how you felt. I'm sorry you think I hurt you. That's not taking accountability. That's realizing that everybody else is on Beck's side and that everybody else sees it the way that Beck is describing it. And that is the only reason Amber could possibly come on here and say, yeah, hey, I'm sorry you felt that way.
I genuinely feel like Beck deserves an apology for the wrongdoings that I did do. But if they don't want to accept it or hear it, then I have to be okay with that. I'm not going to apologize to the internet. The apology wasn't for you guys. It was for them.
Yeah, this apology that Amber is talking about, that was during a live stream that Amber did that was behind a $10 a month paywall. So it wasn't for Beck. It was for Amber and her audience. And not even her whole audience, just the ones that paid for her premium content. And of course, again, this apology that she did behind a paywall was just another half-hearted, I'm sorry you think that I was a
something. But it's like, I'm not gonna sit here and go through every single thing that they said, like every single claim, every single this or that, because that is just gonna fuel negativity. I truly don't feel like the back and forth is productive for either of us.
So to those of you who thought that Amber would just ignore these things that Beck brought up, yeah, that's sort of right. Amber does plan to ignore a lot of it, with the excuse that she doesn't want to fuel the negativity that would be directed towards her, of course.
My focus moving forward is to just ignore it all.
I didn't realize she was going to say it straight up like that, but there you go.
Like, I wanted to take what Beck is doing and put it in like a positive way and put a positive spin to it and like be like, yeah, I am accountable, but
yeah, put a positive spin on it. How do you plan to do that one, Hamby? With another round of Choosey to show us all how fun it was for really reals?
At the same time, obviously, like, I do find frustrations in the ways that I feel like they are exaggerating or they have lied.
And we have 3 for 3. Ignore, maybe sort of justify Choosey. Okay, not really, but putting a positive spin on it, like that's close enough. And of course, to claim that Beck is lying. Classic.
Like everyone likes to say, there are 3 sides to every story. Their side, my side, the truth.
No, Amber. People usually say that there are 2 sides to every story because people have different perspectives. Not because everyone's always lying. Amber just assumes that because she's always lying and she assumes that everybody else does the same. So no, there's not 2 lies and a truth. There's 2 perspectives, dum-dums.
So you know what? I can't even sit here and firmly be like, okay, Beck is lying, because if they viewed it that way, then I have to accept that for what it is, because what's true to someone and the way that they view something might not be true to everyone else in the room. I want to play devil's advocate here for a second. If I'm remembering something wrong that Beck genuinely remembers as like a full truth, then that's fair as well, because I have really bad memory problems due to moments of high stress, trauma, BPD. When I have anxiety, sometimes I'll literally like black out because I'm so anxious.
Yeah, Beck is lying, and if she's not, I just forget because of my bad mentals. What did we say about Amber playing the victim? Amber cannot get through an apology without focusing the attention on her and explaining why she also deserves sympathy.
I just want to say, whether my apology was behind a paywall, whether it was in a Snapchat, whether it's in a YouTube video, or whether I say it to Beck directly, it is 100% sincere.
No, an apology behind a paywall is rubbish. Just like all her apologies, it's just filled with excuses and used as a way to turn things around to turn herself into the victim and highlight why she also deserves sympathy. A normal person giving an apology doesn't have to bring up their BPD multiple times.
But I'm a flawed individual that can learn from this experience. And thankfully, I have. Whether people see it or believe it, I know it because I am my own person and I know how I've been in past relationships. And as I've gotten older and more mature and I've learned more about my BPD and just who I am as a person, I have become a better person and I have become a better girlfriend. I've become a better friend, I've become a better pet parent, I've become a better daughter, I've become a better sister, but I'm still flawed.
All that is very debatable. Since announcing her BPD, she's used it as a crutch in almost every instance where she's done something shitty. She's pushed away most all of her friends, her relationships crumble before they even get started, and she fucking lost a cat just this past November or December, and she still has not microchipped her other pets. So how she thinks that she's a better pet parent now is absolutely beyond me.
I'm super complex and nuanced, just like we all are, and this just has to be the last time that I speak about this to protect my peace, and I hope that Beck does things that also protects theirs. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.
So what does this all mean? Amber has gone through multiple relationships, yet the same pattern keeps repeating. Love bombing at the start, showering her partners with gifts, affection, and attention to reel them in, mirroring them to attach herself more strongly to them, taking on their mannerisms, their hobbies, and even medical conditions to form an intense bond, then slowly starting to increase her control, maybe using some of these manipulation tactics like the Choosey game, Lint-Picking and setting timers on her partners, slowly chipping away at get their autonomy like we saw with Beck, until finally, when the relationship ends, Amber will flip the script and play the victim, even gaslighting her audience with some of the details regarding the relationship, and clinging on in any way that she can to make it seem as though she is the one deserving of an apology. And then the cycle just keeps going. The names change: Crystal, Destiny, Beck, but Amber stays the same. And a major reason why Amber keeps repeating these patterns is because at her core, she doesn't see herself as the problem. She's always the victim when a relationship ends. She dismisses criticism as haters, and she surrounds herself with enablers who don't challenge her behavior, and she dumps all the rest. All that's left at this point is Mama Lynn and Twinkie, and those relationships are also on shaky grounds. And most importantly, this manipulation dynamic works for Amber. It gets her what she wants: attention, validation, and control over her partner. People like Amber don't generally have a grand scheme in mind. Many manipulators just act instinctively. They do what feels right to them in the moment. And over time, those behaviors form a pattern. But whether it's conscious or not, the end result is the same: control over another person. So I would really like to hear your opinion on all this. If you think I've got it all wrong and you would totally love to play Choosey with our girl Hambo for hours, let me know why. And I'm still working on a part 2 to summarize Amber's 2024. There is just a lot, okay? So that'll be out. I don't want to give any promises. So anyway, bye for now.